Dr. Keyana Washington. I am a pediatrician in private practice. I'm in the northern suburbs of Atlanta. I also have a blog, Mommy Doctor Kisses, where I talk about being a mom, being a doctor, and how those things meld together. So I'm here to answer any questions y'all have.
So one of the things that I want to first ask you about is the COVID vaccine. You've gotten, I believe, both doses now, or just one?
I have
Okay,
received
both.
both doses.
How has that, what was the process like, and how have you been since getting those doses?
I have felt fine. I did have some mild side effects. So I received the Pfizer vaccine because that is what was available to me. I was very excited to receive the vaccine, so I was going to take whatever was available. Pfizer was available to me first. So I received that. After the first dose, I had some arm soreness for about 24 hours, nothing too significant. After the second dose, I did have some generalized body aches. At about 24 to 36 hours after the second dose. My arm was more sore the second time than it was the first time. I did get both doses in the same arm. And I felt tired from maybe 36 to 48 hours after the second dose. Other than that, I did not have any more long-term side effects. I am about 6 days out from it now, and I feel back to normal.
I know, symptoms like that are expected when anytime you take, vaccines, especially something like this.
Yes, those symptoms are expected. My symptoms were pretty mild. I know plenty of people who had more significant side effects after the vaccine. I can't say that I personally know of anyone whose vaccine side effects lasted more than a few days. Most people that I have talked to or interacted with, they had more significant side effects after the second dose compared to the first dose, which is to be expected. And so I recommend, if you can, schedule the second dose on a day where you don't have to work the following day, just so you can take it easy and monitor your symptoms. Take some Tylenol if you need to.
Now, there are some people out there that are worried, like, when I get the vaccine, they're going to inject me with COVID. So what can you say about that?
There is no virus in this vaccine. There are no virus particles in this vaccine. The traditional viruses that we are used to are either killed virus, where they have grown a virus and then killed it and then put that in the vaccine in the lab to give to you, or inactivated virus. This is neither one of those. So there is no way that you could get COVID from receiving the COVID vaccine.
But this vaccine, after you get it, it doesn't make you bulletproof. You can't just walk around no mask and, in crowds and all this stuff. It takes a while before it goes into effect, correct?
It does. And even after that time period, you still need to be safe. I mean, I'm at the office now and I'm still wearing my N95 mask and I have my face shield on, and I'm still wearing the same protection that I was wearing before I received the vaccine. So here's the way I think about it. When we talk about masks, we talk about the fact that my mask protects you and your mask protects me. So that's why we all need to wear masks. With the vaccine, my vaccine protects me, but it is not 100% protection. So what we know about this vaccine is that it decreases your risk of death from catching COVID. It decreases your risk of severe disease from catching COVID, decreases your risk of having to go into the hospital. That is what we know. We also think it decreases your risk of being infected, but the studies were not designed to study that initially. So we need more data to prove that to be the fact. So for that reason, even after getting the vaccine, you still need to wear a mask, you still need to wash your hands, you still need to watch your distance from other people. And if you have symptoms that are compatible with a COVID infection, you need to stay home, isolate, and get tested.
I know, getting the vaccine rolled out is kind of tough for medical professionals like yourself. A lot of people are skeptical about getting vaccines and getting this vaccine. They feel like it was rushed and things like that. What can you say to people, especially people in the Black and brown communities, to let them know that getting this vaccine is very important, and it's one that, you know, it's like I think you said before, either you get the vaccine or you ultimately will probably get COVID.
We are at a point where the train has left the station and is just rolling down the tracks, and there are no brakes when it comes to this COVID infection. It is very contagious and it is flying through all of our communities, especially Black and Brown communities. We have been disproportionately affected by this virus due to circumstances beyond our control. But one thing we can control is whether or not we accept this vaccine when it is offered to us. And I strongly encourage everyone to do that. I understand the fear, I understand the hesitation. But again, at this point, it is either you get vaccinated and decrease your risk of needing to go into the hospital, which would be tough now because there are very few hospital beds available in around the country in many communities. So if you get sick and you need a hospital bed, there may not be one for you, or there may not be a doctor or nurse to care for you in that hospital bed. So getting this vaccine decreases your risk of needing to go into the hospital. It decreases your risk of dying. I understand the fear. Our communities have been ravaged by this disease, but have also been ravaged by ill will from governmental entities over decades and decades. This is something that I think we have to feel and acknowledge the fear, say a prayer if praying is what you do, and then get the shot. That's really all that we have to offer at this point.
I know I was on a call where Dr. Fauci was talking about how the anti-vaxxing movement in this country has just taken off, and it's kind of one of the things that is kind of behind the fear. But it's one of those situations where people have to get it. Like, COVID is not going anywhere, right?
It is not going anywhere. If it were going to go somewhere, it would have gone by now. It is not going anywhere. It is very contagious, and there are some treatments available now, but even those treatments are not bulletproof. You know, if you get strep throat, I treat you with one of 3 antibiotics and you get better, and we're done with that. COVID is certainly not like that. Risking catching a COVID infection is similar to risking Russian roulette. You could do just fine with it and have no symptoms at all, and not even know you have it, and then accidentally give it to your grandmother or your coworker or someone else. Or you could have it and be ravaged by decreased oxygen levels and muscle fatigue and just all kinds of side effects for months and months. Some people do well with the infection. Some people become long haulers, which are people who continue to have symptoms that affect their daily life for months and months afterwards. And again, I don't think that there is anything else to offer at this point. This vaccine is a marvel of science. It is a result of many, many years of work by scientists, not months, but years of work by scientists. One thing I will address is, again, most of the vaccines that we know of for viruses use killed or inactivated virus. And what that means is that the laboratories have to actually grow the virus in order to make enough of the vaccine. Because this vaccine does not contain any virus, the companies were able to skip that step. It takes months and months to grow vaccine and culture in the lab. You don't have to do that with this vaccine. So that is another reason why production has been sped up. And honestly, that's just a result of a progression of technology and science. Similar to the way now we can get on the internet and it goes really fast and it doesn't make that noise that it used to make, like when you and I were in high school, that dial-up noise. This is the same thing. Technology has advanced, and so now we are able to produce vaccines faster, produce vaccines that are cleaner and that are very effective.
Now, this question, this was one you said earlier that I'm not going to like the answer to. What does the future look like from here? When will we be able to move around more confidently, maybe leave those masks at home, maybe not have to worry about every week our school calling saying there's, you know, the school may be closed because of an infection, a COVID infection, and people may have been exposed. How long is it going to take? And does that depend on how many people get the vaccine?
It absolutely depends on how many people get the vaccine. I think we're going to need to get to 80% herd immunity before we can really think about moving around like that. So that means that 80% of the population would need to have antibodies to COVID. You get antibodies by either getting the infection and surviving the infection or by getting the vaccine. Um, I think it's going to be 2022, honestly, because the vaccine uptake is not very high. There are so many people who have been offered the vaccine and are declining it. And that presents a lot of challenges. You know, they have distributed this vaccine. They tried to do an equal distribution based on population initially, but take a state like Georgia, where in the metro Atlanta area, there's not enough vaccine for the people who want it. But in some of the rural areas, they have plenty of vaccine, but people are declining it. So now they have to try to figure out how to get that vaccine from the rural areas where people don't want it to the areas where people do want it. And that's just delaying the process of getting us to that 80% herd immunity. And I would treat schools completely separately because the vaccine has not been tested in children at all. They are starting to try to do trials, but I just read an article that the companies are having trouble getting children or even adolescents enrolled in the trials. I understand that, you know, parents are probably like, I'm not signing my child up to, you know, be in this trial. But until we get enough people in those trials, enough adolescents and children in those trials to do the studies that need to be done, the vaccine is not going to be available to children. Um, I don't think that's a, you know, if we can get most of the adults vaccinated, then that would probably be okay for us to start getting back to normal, not wearing masks, not social distancing as much. But based on how things have been going so far, unless we change our attitudes, many of us change our attitudes about this vaccine, it's going to be a very long time before we can get back to normal.
Wow. What else is there that you want to tell people? You know, we're seeing now, it seems like numbers are skyrocketing once again. I guess that goes to the point that, you know, if left untreated, this problem is just going to continue to grow. And I know you said 80% have to have antibodies. Do you know right now how many people may have antibodies from having it and how many more need to be vaccinated? Like if 20 or 30% of the population has already had it, so all we need is like another 50% to go ahead and get, you know, the vaccine.
You know, I don't have exact numbers on that. The problem with antibodies to natural infection is that we do not know how long they last. So the, you know, Pfizer and Moderna, specifically Moderna, recently released a statement saying that they expect that their vaccine will provide antibody protection for at least 12 months. Whereas I have friends who have caught COVID and survived and were checking their antibodies. And some of them, they had antibodies 6 months later. Some of them, their antibodies were gone at 6 months. So we do not know how long the antibodies from natural infection will last. So that's part of the problem. So I would say that 80% of the community needs to be vaccinated.
Okay. Anything else that you want to left out or you want to add or anything like that?
Yes, I would like to add, continue to wear your mask over your nose and your mouth whenever you are leaving your home and going to be around people who do not live in the home with you. Continue to wash your hands and sanitize your hands frequently, and continue to social distance, meaning limiting your gatherings with people who do not live in your home. This is not the time to plan Super Bowl parties. This is not the time to plan huge Valentine's Day parties or anything like that. We are still in what I would call the dark days of this pandemic. I think it's going to be a couple of months before we start to see things level off, but only if we continue to do what we are supposed to do. So if you're in the grocery store, if you're out and about, please, please, please wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance.